Are you ready to witness one of the most spectacular sights in the cosmos? Look no further than the Helix Nebula, a mesmerizing and mysterious celestial object, also known as the Eye of God. In this video, we'll take you on a journey through the stunning beauty and fascinating science behind this cosmic wonder, exploring its origins, composition, and the secrets it holds about the nature of our universe. Get ready to be amazed. What is the Helix Nebula? The Helix Nebula, also known as NGC 7293 or Caldwell 63, is a planetary nebula, PN, located in the constellation Aquarius. Discovered by Carl Ludwig Harding, probably before 1824, this object is one of the closest of all the bright planetary nebulae to Earth. The distance is 655 plus minus 13 light-years. It is similar in appearance to the Cat's Eye Nebula and the Ring Nebula, whose size, age, and physical characteristics are similar to the Dumbbell Nebula, varying only in its relative proximity and appearance from the equatorial viewing angle. The Helix Nebula has sometimes been referred to as the Eye of God in pop culture, as well as the Eye of Sauron. The Helix Nebula is an example of a planetary nebula, formed by an intermediate to low-mass star, which sheds its outer layers near the end of its evolution. Gases from the star in the surrounding space appear, from our vantage point, as if we are looking down at a helix structure. The remnant central stellar core, known as the central star, CS, of the planetary nebula, is destined to become a white dwarf star. The observed glow of the central star is so energetic that it causes the previously expelled gases to brightly fluoresce. First to have knots. The Helix Nebula was the first planetary nebula discovered to contain cometary knots. Its main ring contains knots of nebulosity, which have now been detected in several nearby planetary nebulae, especially those with a molecular envelope like the Ring Nebula and the Dumbbell Nebula. These knots are radially symmetric from the CS and are described as cometary, each centered on a core of neutral molecular gas and containing bright local photoionization fronts or cusps towards the central star and tails away from it. All tails extend away from the planetary nebula nucleus, PNN, in a radial direction. Excluding the tails, each knot is approximately the size of the solar system, while each of the cusp knots is optically thick due to like photons from the CS. There are about 40,000 cometary knots in the Helix Nebula. The knots are probably the result of Rayleigh-Taylor's instability. The low-density, high-expansion velocity ionized inner nebula is accelerating the denser, slowly expanding, largely neutral material which had been shed earlier when the star was on the asymptotic giant branch. The excitation temperature varies across the Helix Nebula. The rotational vibrational temperature ranges from 1800 K in a cometary knot located in the inner region of the nebula are about 2.5 arcman from the CS and is calculated at about 900 K in the outer region at the distance of 5.6. How is Helix Nebula formed? The Helix Nebula, aka NGC 7293, is a planetary nebula formed when an intermediate to low-mass star blows off its outer layers near the end of its life. When the star's core can no longer sustain nuclear fusion, it collapses to form a compact white dwarf. The helix, located in the constellation Aquarius, is among the closest bright planetary nebula at a distance of about 655 light-years. Familiar to amateur astronomers as a very dim, eyepiece-filling donut-shaped cloud of gas, the helix is much more difficult to interpret when viewed through the Hubble Space Telescope and other large instruments. What Helix Nebula is composed of. The dying star at the heart of the Helix Nebula is evolving to become a white dwarf, a shrunken, super-dense object that can pack a sun's worth of material into a sphere the size of Earth. The star is visible as a tiny blue dot at the center of the picture, researchers said. The Helix Nebula is a complex object composed of dust, ionized material, and molecular gas, arrayed in an intricate flower-like pattern. The main ring of the helix is about 2 light-years across, roughly equivalent to half the distance between our Sun and its closest star. However, wispy material from the nebula spreads out at least 4 light-years into space from the central star, researchers said. These thin clouds of molecular gas are difficult to see in visible light, but Vista's infrared detectors can pick them out, and they show up in the new image as a dark red haze. Helix Nebula, a close-up. Helix is an example of a planetary nebula, the expanding shell of glowing gas around a dying, sun-like star. Despite the name, planetary nebulae have nothing to do with planet formation. These glowing gas clouds got their name because they look like the disks of planets when viewed through a small telescope. A planetary nebula is created late in a star's life when the star's outer layers of material escape into space. A forest of thousands of gaseous tentacles embedded along the inner rim of the nebula points back toward the central, dying star, a small but super-hot white dwarf that seems to float in a sea of blue gas, white dot in the center of nebula. These tentacles, which superficially resemble comets, formed when a hot stellar wind of particles plowed into colder shells of dust and gas ejected previously by the doomed star. The comet-like tentacles have been observed from ground-based telescopes for decades, but never have they been seen in such detail. They may lie in a disk encircling the hot star. The helix, located 650 light-years away, is one of the closest planetary nebulae to Earth. This glowing gas cloud appears very large in the sky. Its apparent size is about half the diameter of the full moon. The helix's actual diameter is about 2.5 light-years. The Helix Nebula is so vast that Hubble telescope cameras had to take several separate photos to capture its full extent. The Hubble's operators then had to assemble the different photos to get a more complete picture of the nebula. They then combined that photo with another wide-angle photo taken at the Kitt Observatory, and only then could they see the entire mass of the nebula. Right now, the Helix Nebula is still incredibly hot and very active as the gaseous bands are used for fuel and burned away one by one. As this process continues, the entire structure will eventually cool. In conclusion, the Helix Nebula is a breathtakingly beautiful and fascinating object in our night sky that has captured the imagination of astronomers and stargazers alike. Its intricate structure and vivid colors make it a popular target for amateur and professional astronomers alike, and its study has revealed new insights into the life and death of stars. So, if you want to witness the cosmic eye in the sky for yourself, grab your telescope and head to a dark location on a clear night. And if you enjoyed learning about the Helix Nebula, make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more amazing content exploring the wonders of our universe. Thanks.